Hi everyone, my name is Tammy, and you can probably hear the sound of freedom going over, but I have learned that freedom is one of my favorite F words, if you will. I wanted to talk a minute, though, about this idea of homelessness and hoarding. And I know for some people they may not see this correlation, but I do see it where frequently youth living in a hoarded home don't want to spend the time there if they can avoid it. And I get that because I was one of those kids who figured out ways to not be at home as much as possible. And for me, it was around church and youth group and babysitting and going to friends' houses, things like that. So those were coping mechanisms that I used. Those can be very hard to do in this current time period. And so today I saw in my town where there's a place called Ryan's House for Youth, and it's for youth that are struggling with homelessness or trying to avoid homelessness. And I have loosely been a part of that and attended some of their events and have seen their heart for serving youth in our community. And they are opening a drop-in center in my town, and I'm really excited to see that. Their other facility is about 10 miles. And I'm the interesting part about this is that the building they are now occupying in my town, a place where I connected with the real estate agent to buy my home quite a few years ago. And it's very poignant for me to see that drop-in center happening in that space, because it's not a piece I talk about a whole lot, but I moved out of my home my senior year of high school, and I had a live-in caretaking job for a period of time. And when that ended, I chose to end that connection. I didn't really know where I was going to go. And so I can relate to being a senior in high school, trying to finish your education, but also figuring out where to live. And so I have a real heart for those kids that are struggling because they can't be in their space. And so it bothers me that kids have to live in that environment and there isn't a resolution because their parents have a hoarding problem that they didn't ask to be a part of. And so having a space to go so that you can do your homework, escape the hoard, graduate high school, it's so valuable for a kid to have that. And it just made my morning when I saw the fact that they're at a space where they can open up a place actually not too far from the high school where I live. So the other part of homelessness and hoarding is that if you don't address your issue, if you have a hoarding issue, you can be evicted. And even if you have all the resources available to you and you say no, you can still be evicted. And so my suggestion is, if you are facing this hoarding issue, you need to face it head on. And if your kid is avoiding being there, you need to look at why that is. And if you are a youth trying to navigate that, know that you are not alone. A lot of us have escaped that, even though we might be silently surviving and not sharing our stories. But I encourage people to share their stories because that's what we need to make that human connection. So I see a lot of people here dropping by, and I want to say thank you for Mark and James, and I saw Richard and also Stephen for just stopping by to see what I'm talking about. But I really see this connection between why people end up homeless and hoarding, and why many of us try to avoid a space where hoarding is happening. And if you are a youth living in that situation and really don't have a lot of options, my suggestion is to claim a space if you can, for you, so that you can have a place to sleep, do your homework, maybe get away from clutter, which can be very anxiety producing for some of us. And if you need really tangible things like a shower or a place to do your laundry, check with a friend, check with maybe a relative who is sympathetic to your plight, and see if there is a way for you to survive so that you can get the hell out of there and thrive. And I see Lisa here also. Thank you. And thank you, James, for your comment too about the strong connection, because people do get kicked out of their housing because of hoarding. And that's something that people don't realize, that if you tell someone with a hoarding problem to just clean up, it's probably not going to work. You need to have a plan, and you need to have checkpoints, and you need to recognize that there is a mental health component happening. Granted, you can put everything out and they can still avoid dealing with their issue, but if you have put it out there, at least you are making an attempt to help this person deal with their issue. And I'll just say one other part about that is, if our objective is to keep people housed, then we need to keep them from being housed. And often that is underlying trauma issues that haven't been addressed. So there's a whole ball of wax when it comes to hoarding. And you can follow the Hoarding Solution podcast if you are looking for people's survival stories. And if you are a professional that deals with hoarding in some way, you can join us in the Hoarding Solution group. And I just want people to understand they have a space to connect around this issue, and that you don't have to face it alone. So I don't want to go on here for too long, but I thank everyone for dropping by and for listening in to the perspective that homelessness and hoarding really do go hand in hand. So thank you, everyone, and I hope you have a great day.